Hopefully you can all hear me. Quick caveat, you will realise at the start that I am a POM, a very proud POM, but also very happy and proud to situate in this wonderful country, and in particular this wonderful city. I do have a target today. I want a bit of feedback at the end. I want to be the most successful Englishman at the G since Alistair Cook hit his double century 2 years ago in the Ashes. So that is what I'm looking for, that feedback at the end. I don't know whether or not I'll last beyond a golden duck, to be perfectly honest. Okay, so yeah, as introduced by Grant, today we've got with us, we've actually brought representatives from the school from 2 different areas. To give you a little indication of who I am and what I do within the school, I've actually got 3 roles. Teacher, primarily, as we all identify with as being normally our primary course. E-platforms manager, which is where I come into this Monty's situation and into Schoolbox in particular, and lead learner. So there's a lot within my role that there's a lot of crossover, and it is a bit of a hybrid. And coincidentally, my predecessor now works at Schoolbox, which is Belle here. So I wanted to introduce Belle as well, because I may point to her at different points when I lose my train of thought and I want to talk to particularly the beginning of our journey. And we also have with us Mark de Vries, who's one of our Year 16 teachers with me, previously worked in the Year 4 team, has worked really pushed and driven the ePortfolio since Belle introduced it 2.5 years ago. And then we also have a parent advocate who will come in and touch base with us when we talk about the community engagement bit in the second part. Okay. All right, it's really important. I think it's really important to start with something that's a little bit engaging for all of us. So this is something somebody shared with me before. It's really interesting if you go online to Google and you search into the image search, stock teacher images, because you end up with what people perceive teachers to be. And this is why I wanted to identify in particular with the fact that we recognize a lot of us as teachers at the start. So I was taking a look at these and I was thinking, what do they represent? How do they represent us as learners, as teachers within a profession? So this first one, you might want to read the caption. I'll read it out to you. When you see an image like this, it's so easy to get kids working silently, so easy, in fact, that I can turn my back and relax a bit. I'm sure we've all experienced that for sure. This one, it's okay that I've explained this problem 1,000,000 times. I'm confident this is the explanation that will turn on that light bulb. Well, I know we've all been there as well. Like I said, this is a really complicated, unnecessary equation, but I love, love, love writing on the chalkboard. And I know in each of our schools, we've still got those teachers who adore coming back to the chalkboard somewhere, peeling the whiteboard off the wall so they can see it. This one, you wouldn't believe how much of my day consists of quiet work time, or sneaking away to try and update Schoolbox, or sneaking away to try and get onto our instance to make it look even better. I can get so much planning done while my students work independently. This one behind me is leading the class in a maths lesson. Definitely. And this last one, which I left as my favourite, because this is kind of from personal experience. My students are just riveted by our geography textbooks. They can't take their eyes off of it. Okay, so who we are. We are St Louis de Montfort's. We are a junior school. We're prep to 6. It's been really fascinating, and can I just also say a thank you to all those people that have presented prior to us, because it's been really interesting listening to schools that situate from K to 12 and their experience and how they've integrated into the high school, and that gives us an idea and a concept of how it can go further in the journey. So when we see us, we can also see where it will go. So thank you in that. But we are a prep to 6 school, and we're in the southeast suburbs of Melbourne, a beautiful suburb called Aspendale. We are a working class suburb. We have a lot of trade people working. We've got a parent representative here, not a trade, kind of. And yeah, so we are so we're 700 children, 28 classes. We've had lots of successes of recent time. We highly in our sustainability precinct recently won Victorian School of the Decade for sustainability. Just a little bit of self-promotion there. So we identified 3 years ago through the lead of Belle and our principal, Tom Lindemann, and another member of staff, Rachel Kennedy, that we needed a space in which the children could engage in their learning and it would be easy to communicate. So that's where we kind of come through. And there's some of those things that identify with our school. When we started, we really recognized the importance of the teachers again. I'm going to keep coming back to this teachers, and this, in particular, this concept, this idea of teacher efficacy, which we know we hear a lot about at the moment, and autonomy of teachers as well, that freedom of choice. We really recognize the importance of engaging the teachers in the platform so that they were able to be content drivers. They were able to create the content and have a bit of artistic license. Not just about necessarily the learning events. We weren't really at that at the beginning, but also just the design of it. What did we want it to look like? What feedback were we getting from our individual students of what they wanted it to look like, and what would make it appealing to them? So we really started out with that, and that was a key consideration when it came to ePortfolios and how we use ePortfolios, because we recognized where we were, what we were doing. It was almost imperative for us to, and Belle, jump in at any point if I'm saying this wrong, but almost imperative to utilize that tool, that function, to move us on from where we were. Because where we were sitting in a place where we were trying to use our digital tools that were available to us, for example, an app called Book Creator, of which you may be familiar with, and generating those ePortfolios in our 4 to 6 classes, because we had the one-to-one program with iPads since 2011. Yeah, I've only been there since 2015, so I'm just kind of joining the dots here a little bit. And we wanted to think about how it could complement what we use already in terms, that's the incorrect spelling of complement. How we could complement our use of Google Apps and as a G Suite school. Still developing the range of digital skills, but most importantly, share that learning journey for those pupils. So that was really where we were. We were also in the traditional format of parent meetings were parent meetings. Parents would come in and ask the questions that all the parents want to know about behavior, etc., but not necessarily giving a voice, or as much of a voice as we wanted to the children, leading and sharing their learning there to really get the parents to understand what the purpose of those meetings were. So we were heading into that student conference and also utilizing, I know this is familiar language for a lot of you, things such as SMART goals and how we were using those. When it came to actually creating the ePortfolios, can I just get a show of hands of those people that have actually started using ePortfolios already? Okay, so sorry, this may be really boring. I should have said that at the beginning. Anyway, never mind. That was almost out, nicked one. One of the key features, or one of the good things about the Schoolbox system that we really recognized at the start, was the ability to create these skins or templates for each of the pages, particularly in junior school, because when we started Belle, again, we were getting the children to kind of almost systematically put in the different features that we thought they'd be able to use in order to incorporate their learning, etc. As soon as we had this functionality, it was much easier for that, and it lent itself much nicer to bringing it down further within the school, of which we're now looking at 3 to 6s using the digital ePortfolios. So that was a really good feature for us to be able to do that. So those people that aren't aware, I definitely recommend that. That situates in the admin console, under that ePortfolio with the flashing arrow there. And that really helped us, and that really helped the kids, because it became a bit of a barrier to the kids going, oh, this is laborious, like me having to drag this in, particularly on a mobile device. And one of the nice changes that's happened with the update is the fact that you now use the kind of like 8 dots on the left-hand side, as opposed to dragging things up and down and things moving up and down. And kids were on iPads going, I've lost it, and that's it, I give up. I'm not doing this anymore because it's gone, I don't know where it is. So that was a really nice feature, so thanks to the Schoolbox team for introducing that. But creating the templates for them just took away that stress for the kids, made them feel much more kind of happy about going on and interacting on a much more kind of consistent and regular basis. Our design, in terms of our design, as I said, we started with the templates and we looked at what were the key subject areas or what were the key learning areas that we wanted to capture or we were capturing already. And we started to think about how that would actually look. And one of the things that we recognized was there was a clunkiness to the tools that we're able to use. Again, it wasn't lending itself as nicely as it possibly could to the mobile use of a mobile device, like moving things up and down. And so we actually just started, and this is kind of where I'm coming over to you, Belle, with questions. We started just really using the text box feature. And we used the text box feature as a way of publishing. It was a nice transition for us to go, they're using Book Creator, they're publishing, they're competent, they've got some skills. Let's move on, simply using the text box, and let's think about we were creating the content outside of the space and then bringing it in. And one of the key shifts and one of the key changes in mindset about us at St. Louis is we've thought, well, the purpose of a portfolio is to be able to capture in an instant. So, I mean, plenty of you, I'm sure you seesaw in junior schools. The great thing about that is that ability to capture straight away and to communicate that straight away. And so that's what we wanted to do. So then we wanted to encourage the children to start using different features, different functionalities of the components part in order to make that interactivity happen more often. So that was kind of the changeover. And at this point, I've got a couple of ePortfolios to show. So the initial one, Ella B, you can see in there along the top. We can just go to the religion aspect. You can see what was being created there was in the text box, and she was sharing her reflections in her learning. She was capturing things but she was essentially screenshotting and putting into a text box. And that was the tool that was being used. And it was okay, like it was good. It would show a trajectory of learning over a period of time. And we would do that across all of the learning domains, all of the learning areas. It was good. One of the things, and I'll come back to it later, one of the things we began to find is after they'd done more than 1 year, or even more than one semester, realistically, it became this huge collection of work. And in terms of, again, navigatability, that's not even a word, but I'm going to make it today. In terms of the ability to navigate it, that works better. In terms of the ability to navigate it, it wasn't friendly. And we were getting this response from our parents saying, well, we look at it on our mobile devices. Like, we're looking at it constantly on our mobile devices. We want to be able to see it much more clearly. That's a feedback that I'll come back to in a little bit. So then moving from that, we started thinking, okay, how can we take them on? As I spoke to the other components. So if we go to the other one for me, please. Thanks, guys. So now you can see we were introducing. So if we start with the mathematics, that would be great. So we were utilizing mathematics. And so some of the tools that we started to bring into it, we're still using those templates. The kids are still competent in using the text boxes and happy to do that. So we still do use that. We honor the fact that we've come from there. We started thinking about the use of blogs as an interactive tool and an easy way to capture in a similar way that you would in Seesaw. You'd write your reflections and it would get notified out. And also the use of the SMART goals, in particular at the top there. And this is something I'm promoting myself here a little bit because this is a child in my class. But like the idea, the concept of that goals has been a brilliant component. So whoever's in here representing Schoolbox and the developers, thanks so much for that. And to be able to incorporate that and use that. And the kids are now becoming more confident and competent with using it. Okay, if we can go back to the presentation, that would be awesome. I just wanted to jump out and show that. And I'm happy at any time if anybody wants to come up and have a chat with us, and we can share anything that that you want to see within there, share some examples of some of our kids' work. Yeah, we can, oh, it's me, I've got it. Okay, so, again, these are the kind of clear wins that we've talked about and I've already mentioned too. The one that I haven't really spoken about is, again, where we sit with, and this is, again, coming back to the thanks and the appreciation of what we've seen from other people. The continuous reporting and the use of it as a learning platform has been a bit of a barrier to us. Belle would work 100 hours a week without exaggeration when she was there and still not necessarily get the time to be able to do that. So that's probably our next journey, and we've seen a lot of your schools operating really nicely in that. So we're beginning to get an idea of how we can do that in my 20 minutes that I get to do it a week. But one of the things we've really talked about now is this idea, this concept of student voice, which was spoken about earlier. Someone mentioned it to Peter. And student voice is really, really a crucial thing at the moment that we're not just putting this upon the children are seeing the value of it, but they're also having a say in how the design occurs. So that's something that we're coming to now, which will be interesting. Hopefully I'll get invited back to present again when we've done a little bit more of it, and I'll be able to tell you what's happened with that. But, you know, just in terms of, I'll just flick forward and I'll come back to you, Mark, just in terms of like harvesting that information about, you know, what the kids think about it, how they feel about it. It was quite surprising because it was becoming, as I said before, a bit of a laborious task for the children to do it. It was also very kind of end of term, like, oh, we've got student conferences coming up. I'm not going to use that word, but we're going to have to get this content in. We have to develop it rather than an ongoing learning journey, or rather than representing their learning as they go across. But when you talk to the kids, they had a real strong concept of why we're actually doing it. And then they were starting to develop, like, these are the ideas of how we want to take it forward. And so that for us is a really important thing and a really important consideration for learning. Now, one of the things I wanted to, and I alluded to previously, is it's essential to get on board the teachers, as you all know, in terms of their voice and their support. And so that's why I invited Marg with us today. So I'm happily, I don't know how happy you are, but it's to pass over to Marg just to share a bit of her experience from a teacher's perspective. And that's us saying that these teachers, our teachers, are designing pretty much all of the content that goes into any class page or cluster page, as we call it, our year level groups, and they are taking the time to do that. So if you're okay, I'll pass on to you, and just so she can talk to her experience about ePortfolios. Yeah?
Just briefly.
Okay.
And for me, it's been a real big learning curve. I've been teaching for over 35 years, and I started off with the old Castettner. So many of you probably grew up with the methylated spirits coming to you of a morning. That's what I used to write on. We also, if I made a mistake, I had to start all over again. Computer technology has been a real learning curve for me. I didn't grow up with it. I grew up with the books and whatever, but now I've sort of really embraced it. And part of it's got to do with the people that I work with. I have worked with Belle for a number of years, and she was just inspirational. And there was none of this, Marg, you can't do it. You're going to do it, as part of her team. I seem to land into the teams with all the technology gurus. But they push you on. And as a parent of young children too, young adults, they're also into the IT as well. So, Mum, you can do this, not show me how to do it. Get in there and have a practice. So it's been a really good journey for me. I started off working through all the modules and things like that to sort of get through. And, I've got to, I think, about module 7, and I think that was enough for me. And then it was more on the hands-on aspects. When it comes to ePortfolios, I found them really good. We used to do at St Louis, we used to have bits of work that the children did, and then I would sit, depending on what year level I taught, put them into the display books, and these display books would go to the parents, and we would have had a little learning outcome and a success criteria on them. Now, what we're finding is the children are taking ownership of their portfolios, and the children are actually putting in work that they want to put in. And we have a very big thing about students setting their goals, and their SMART goals. They're not just about, I'm going to get better at maths. They work really hard on organising their goals, what they're going to put into their goals, and these then lead to this student-led conference. So any work that they put into their ePortfolio has to reflect a journey of their goal. It's not just one piece of work, it's summative. So we have they might say, I'm not very good at, say, times tables, for instance. And so we then got them to realise, well, which times table? So they might say there's 6 times tables. So in their ePortfolio, they're going to have a journey of 5 things that they might do to improve that. So they keep a weekly checklist, and then the parents can actually sort of see that as they're going through. So they might play a game, they might have their parents hear them, they might have a friend hear them, they might video themselves. All of these go into their ePortfolio. So it's a really good thing for parents. So when we have our student-led conferences, they then reflect on their ePortfolio, and this ePortfolio then shows the work and the journey that they've gone through. What I also like about it is I can give feedback to the children, and I will link different things back to them, and they can actually get this feedback immediately. Parents can also get onto it and see where we're going from. I'm also in charge of the cluster page for parents, and even yesterday, I had a day off yesterday. I was typing things up, and I think I just uploaded automatically. Parents are all there, back on, Marg, what about this? You haven't done this, and all those sort of things. Their ePortfolios are also, if we're doing something on Lent, being a Catholic school, children will actually find something that they want to talk about Lent, and they might share it with other children. I have blogs on it, I have weekly puzzles, I have polls on there. So all of this, a lot of them are instigated by the children. A lot of them are also sort of put what they want to do. So I've just found ePortfolios fabulous, and it's for someone who was the old Castettner person. I think I've come a long way. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Marg. Yeah, and honouring that journey as well, and Marg in particular is evidence of someone who's kind of embraced that learning themselves, seen themselves and situated themselves as a learner, which is really important that we do that as well. So kind of just wanted to, before we get to questions, if you've got questions about our journey, the roadmap that we've kind of gone through and the roadmap that we continue to go on, we are a different school in the sense that it is a whole staff kind of expectation that content is driven by us, and the learning, hopefully as we move forward, will be driven by us as a whole staff. Everybody's involved, from the people in the office to the person in the uniform shop. Like, every single person is involved, and parents as well. So it is a little bit different how we do that. And in terms of where we want to go, I mean, I kind of, again, mentioned these previously in there, but, thinking about the tools that can be used and feeding that back to Schoolbox is really important to us. The partnership that we have with them, that we know we can suggest developments and changes, that's kind of where we act at the moment, where we want to be. And the student engagement is crucial. It's so crucial. It's so important for us. Because if they're not engaged in it, then there's kind of no purpose, really, as far as we've experienced. And if it becomes just a task, then it's not really providing its function. This next one, the importance of archiving, and I'll shoot forward to that. I just wanted to show you this GIF. When you look at it in mobile, it's quite overwhelming. And that's the thing that I mentioned earlier about how do we archive work? How do we get to a position now where we can archive learning in a way that it's still accessible, still easy to get to, and then the ePortfolio doesn't become something that is miles and miles and miles long, particularly responding to that feedback that we've received, that parents are looking at it on a mobile device. And like I said, the continuous reporting and the learning that we've taken from here has been really crucial to us, and how we can develop that, how I can rope other people in to come along on that journey, and the support and guidance that comes from Schoolbox. So we appreciate and thank you for that. As you can see, we quite like Bitmojis. I went with the patriotic shirt. I don't know how well that's going to go down, 3 lines. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to kind of take those now, and Marg's here as well from a teacher's perspective if you have any for them. I'm looking. Oh, yeah. Have we got, oh. Do you want this one? Sorry, we didn't use it.
Hello. Hi, I'm over here, up the back.
Up the back.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
My school, definitely in the primary school, they're not really using Schoolbox much at all, much to my disappointment. But in the high school, we were considering using ePortfolios, but the worry was the confidentiality or privacy, particularly around goal setting. Our school had concerns that other students would see those goals, and particularly in high school where kids can be a bit kind of nastier or, not as pleasant. And they were just worried about that kind of aspect of it. And I'd love to introduce this to the primary school. But again, do you have any concerns about how open it is? Are you happy for the other kids to see it? Maybe it's just my school has horrible kids. I don't know. But
yeah, I'm just reflecting on that, and I may ask you about this, Bill, but to my knowledge, they can't view each other's ePortfolios. So when you're logged in as a student, you can't see the other person's. The only actual thing you can see of that, you can't. I think even the images are redacted, aren't they? That you can't see the images, so you can find the name, but you can't see that content. So it is personal to them. You can link the parents into it, and you can also set the notifications or encourage the parents to set notifications so that when there is work the shared on there, the children can receive that as well. So am I right in saying that? I don't want to take... Yeah, they can share with a particular student if they wanted to. If they were collaborating together, for example, they do have that functionality.
Okay, I thought that everyone could see everything, but
No.
My misunderstanding. Sorry,
Yeah.
everyone.
One of the functions, one of the tools there, if you're admin or you're admin to, and I'm sure you all know this, but to impersonate a student to see that experience, their student experience, that's a really good tool, a way around making sure that that's okay before you get into the privacy part of it.
Thanks for your presentation. As a primary teacher and as an e-learning leader, I was really excited when I saw ePortfolios about 3 years ago, but have chosen not to use them because they seem to lack a lot of functionality that things like Seesaw and Shobi have.
Yep.
Have you found in your journey that that's now improving to the point where you're confident to use them over some kind of third party?
In terms of where we currently are and how we were getting learning into the platform, I mean, the only other learning that really occurs interactively in the course builder is the use of homework in there. And so we recognised that was probably a quick win for us to use the ePortfolios to build engagement as well, to bring people in and share that. We have discussed as a school, and we've yet to kind of put in place about how they can complement each other. So how could the use of how could the use of Seesaw in maybe the year 1 and 2 grade and prep grade then complement the use of ePortfolios later, and what are the skill sets that we're developing in the kids in them using this? We have found, and completely candid and honest, and I've spoken with the Schoolbox team about it, we found it to be quite clunky, but it's definitely getting better, and it is definitely improving at all time. And again, they're very receptive to that feedback, which we're regularly in contact, fortunately, because I've got the relationship with Belle, not that type of relationship, would you say? When I'm able to feedback to her and give her direct and say, look, about this, and I know they're working towards that kind of goal. So that's key. I think that's probably quite key on your agenda as well, is it? Yeah.
Yeah. I was probably most excited by when James was speaking this morning, saying they're actually going to start putting the work into ePortfolios and a focus towards primary education. One of the criticisms I had was, as a teacher, I couldn't put content into a student's ePortfolio back when I had a look. Are you able to do that now? Do you know?
I haven't actually done that. That's not something I've done. I'm going to pose that question to Schoolbox and ask them. It's not something I've done on my experience of it yet. But yeah, absolutely. I think that would be perfect. And also to send it out globally if there's something that you want to share with more than one pupil. Yeah. Sorry, I can't answer that
all
one.
good.
But
Thanks.
thank you.
G'day, at the back. Hello.
Oh yeah. Hey.
Is my understanding that it is just years 4 to 6 who are currently using the ePortfolios at your school?
In our school, yeah, we're just moving it to the year 3s now. So we're just moving it because we operate a 4 to 6 BYOD, and it's iPads are the devices, and we've just gone 1-to-1, but we're actually kind of looking at a transition of Chromebooks as well at the moment. So, yeah, we're going to year 3.
So yeah, we had some questions about the take-up in P to 3 for Schoolbox.
Yeah.
We're having trouble trying to get our heads around how Schoolbox might be relevant there, given the kids, as soon as you show them a login form, that can be quite a barrier.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things that have benefited, and this will be the second part of the presentation really, that have helped us with that is like things like we've introduced the Digistorm app in the school, and that's given us the opportunity for single sign-on for kids. So often that overcomes that barrier of them being able to log in. We're very kind of hot on upskilling that right even from prep, giving them the capability and access to it. But we're also conscious of our parent group and how important our parent group are. One of the things we've done for our pre-prep parents, for example, coming into this year, we gave a lot of support in what Schoolbox is, or what Monty's is, and how Monty's operates, and what the function and purpose of it is. And so as a result of it, that's massively increased our engagement. But they've also sat with their children and talked them through it. So they're interacting with things like our class pages and what would be our year level pages defined as our cluster pages. They're interacting with that quite a lot, which is helping. So bringing them on board, especially with the younger children, is really helpful.
Okay, thank you. Well, I was wondering, is it up to the teachers at all to fill in blanks for the younger years?
For the, what, in terms of
so if you had a year 2, would it be a teacher taking a photo of their work and putting it on their portfolio on their behalf?
Yeah, at the moment, yeah, that would happen.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for your question. I didn't think there'd be any questions. I thought it would be really crap, and everyone would go, nah, what a waste of 25 minutes.
Howdy. I'm trialling it with middle school students at the moment, so I've got it with year 7s and hoping that the ePortfolio will follow them through up until year 9. You talked a little bit about the archiving feature would be fantastic if they could bring that in, but what happens year in, year out with the ePortfolios? Yeah, what happens with us, absolutely. Well, that's why that's really key on our agenda, because it does just become... Just grows. Yeah, it just grows. And it's what was the word I used? Unnavigatable. It's very difficult, and it is very clunky. And I mean, there have been the changes that they've made with how you move the different components around has made a massive difference, because previously work was getting lost. We follow a protocol. It's written into our policy, our learning teaching policy, that they write what semester it is, what year it is, as a preface before anything that they write in there, so that if it does get lost. But yeah, we seem to have overcome that bit, but it does grow, massively. So that is key on our agenda, and I'm using this forum as an opportunity. Any Schoolbox people, thanks. Thank you. No worries.
How much time, sorry, I'm over here.
Yeah, hey.
How much time did you say start in class with students setting up your ePortfolio in the beginning to what does it look like now? Is it just second nature that they upload stuff to their ePortfolio? Did you have to be really teacher directed in the use of ePortfolio in the beginning?
Yeah, I would say that. I would say that in terms of this setup, it is definitely required the teacher direction. I work in the year 6 level now, so they've been doing it. This is their 3rd year of doing it, and they're much more autonomous. But then we still have the year 4s who previously haven't done it before coming in, so we still have to have that teacher direction for that. It's a good question, because that's also now what I was mentioning before about the student voice and what they want it to look like, because we've directed it. This is what, this is the expectation to kind of get our heads around as well. But now What do you want it to look like? What is the learning that you want to share in it, and how do you want to share that? And the kids are coming up with some really good ideas about that. And there's also kind of a bit of crossover of utilising those that are experts in the sixes to then work with the fours. So what do they think's good? And then they can bring it down to the fours. So that's something as a consideration as well. No, not everything's what work-wise. Yeah. So it's a choice. They do choose though. Like that's where their choice came in. They're choosing.
But then do you dedicate time
Yeah.
for them to do that in class, or is that something
that-
that they
okay.
might do at
Yeah.
home, uploading into their portfolio? Like, how much time in the beginning did you actually dedicate class time to?
They learn very quickly how to save things, how to upload them, what needs to be uploaded. So as I said, with their goals, which we put in there, they were very, very succinct in knowing that, and it just became part of the routine. So we had in my grade anyway, and I know the Year 4 team, we used to have in one of our rotations for writing was just actually to look at their goals, make sure if they needed to do a film or something like that, that's when they would utilise that time in the primary school. And I could say by the end of first term, there were still, you had your little stragglers along, but by the end of, the end of the first semester, and they knew that they had to present to their parents, all the children were really switched on. That was in grade 4, and now with grade 6, it's just second nature to them.
That's great. Have you had really good parent uptake from that as well, and parent engagement in their pages?
That's a bit of a battle with us, to be perfectly honest, and that's probably more so the crossover from parent meetings to the student-led conferences, and that's it's shifting their expectation of what that looks like, and actually them realising the importance of the child having a voice and sharing their learning and stuff.
And can I also say that it's also been very good with the parents that they actually look at the goal and whether the children are very honest whether they've achieved it or not. And the parents really get on board and they help them succinct what the next semester goal is going to be. So it's just really good. So they might say, well, look, there's no way we're going to be able to help you in this particular, because your sporting commitments, whatever. But the parents that I had last year were wonderful. And when we analysed the goals with the children in the portfolio, okay, why didn't you achieve it? Well, children have to be honest because they're the ones who've written it. Or I've mucked around, I haven't done what I've meant to do, da-da-da. Or, Mum, I've needed you to hear my reading, or I've needed you to hear my spelling, you haven't been there. So it was really, really good feedback for all the children. So I think in that regard it's been a marvellous sort of tool, putting the goals and everything on their ePortfolio, and the parents can see, so.
Thanks, everyone. We have got a second presentation, I know, and you're probably infuriated with my voice. So we did talk about just having 5 minutes just to kind of chat, or we've only got 20 minutes left. Are you happy for me to just go on to the second one? Is everybody? It's the community engagement aspect. That was resounding. I'll just go on to it. Oh yeah, nice thumbs up. Thanks. I like you. All right. So, okay. So the other thing that's been a crucial part of our journey with Schoolbox has been in community engagement, lifting community engagement and getting buy-in from all of our stakeholders. Again, I just wanted to shut. So I'll just kind of make reference to Donna Coelho here, it will add context to it as I get through. She is our PFA Vice President. And the reason she's here today will become very clear soon, but it was about that parent voice being active and actually upskilling our parents, but I'll get to that in a bit. So I've got the power to do this, haven't I? Yeah, this was the first thing. I just wanted to make reference to that, what my students' parents think I do when I'm on professional development. I just thought that was absolutely hilarious, just have a wonderful time. And then yesterday I took a photograph of myself out there with a bottle of Carlton Draft on a selfie. I thought, could this go on Monty's? Onto our Schoolbox? No, better not, just in case, because it will just compound that theory. Okay, so our digital context, like many schools, when we were coming into the use of Monty's, was all of these different forums. They were all being used, different streams, coming to communicate to parents. Big parent feedback was, where's this? Where am I going to find this information? How do I know how to navigate it? So we had Facebook. We had a presence on Facebook with our year group pages. We had Schoolbox coming in. We had School Bag. We had school interviews. We had Catholic Education Victoria, which is our icon, which is our e-portal. We had Care Monkey, and then we had our own website. one of the biggest things we struggled with was with Facebook was a miscommunication and misrepresentation of things that were occurring in school. Often things would be screenshot from other places and they would have changed and they would have needed to be adapted, and people wouldn't have recognized that that has actually happened and therefore turn up at the wrong times or send their children with the wrong things. So we recognized it was really important that we moved past that. So we then thought about, okay, the communication policy and the importance of having that. So we established our communication policy, which was quite a contemporary thing for us to do. We've got about 3,000 policies, haven't we, Belle? 7,000? Our principal likes writing policies. So anyway, so we came up with the communication policy, and again, working in partnership with our PFA for this. The first thing that was really good was that news feature. I'm sure you're all using it, was the news feature to move traditionally from what was coming out at the end of each week with a PDF, being shared, people downloading it, everything being on there. It was difficult. It definitely wasn't easy, because there were still people going, where do I find this? Where do I find this? I used to go to the newsletter. You've taken out my safety blanket. And so we had to kind of upskill, and we had to consider that, which will come in as well. So you utilize the news. Again, learning about, this is news that's shared by teachers in class. So you can see the teachers' names come through, and you can see the protocol that we're using so that we've got a consistency of message across the year level, so then people can use it. Also, our notifications. Chris from Digistorm talked about this last year. This is essential. If you haven't kind of engaged in this in the administration console, this is essential. Like, getting a handle on your notifications and what notifications look like is really, really, really beneficial. Also giving the people who are operating the system the understanding that they can control their notifications. They have the ability to say what it is they hear and when they hear it. That is really, really important. One of the lessons that we've learned, haven't we, Donna, from the parents feeding back. We were grounded in research. So at this point, we were thinking, okay, we're getting about 4,000 parent engagements a month. So this is August last year. 4,000 parent engagement months. So of a cohort, we look for 50%, like many schools, 50%, because that identifies as one per family. We're looking for, let's say we've got 350, so they're each going on there 10 times, in essence. And we're thinking about, okay, well, 10 times over the course of the month is probably not a lot. So how do we build that? How do we consider getting them in and getting them on board with us? So then we came up with a PFA actual designated page. And whereas a lot of the time we would go, okay, we're going to create this and then we're going to run it and we're just going to communicate to you and you can just watch what happens and not necessarily have a say. We decided we were going to bring parents onto the system as users. So not as users in their parent role, but actually similarly to staff, where they can create content, where they can share content. So it was about, that was when we were like, okay, so we have to go through the upskilling of these parents. We have to get a willingness of parents because they're doing it voluntarily. You're not getting paid today. And it was a really kind of key moment in how do we move across. So we generated and created our PFA page. And fortunately, we got a number of parents that were willing to come and learn a little bit with us. And so this became our parents and friends area and space. Again, we were using consistent tools of the social streams and the news. We made it as simple as we possibly could. We also instigated forums for parents that they could interact with each other. We were trying to encourage that idea of, you don't need to go to Facebook to socialize. You can come to Monty's. Didn't really work. They still use Facebook, but that's okay. That's the nature of society. That's how we work. But we are getting much more of that engagement. So this was generated and created. Now, I say that this is all my wonderful idea, but actually the person who moderates and creates this is our parent, Donna. So I'm just going to ask Donna if you're okay, if you're happy to come up, just to speak to your experience about how you find it and what you do. Yeah.
I have to preface this by saying this is my least favourite task in the entire world, is standing in front of a microphone. Okay, so from the parents and friends perspective, when we looked at building a page, we looked at the things that we didn't want to step over the boundary of being school operational. And that was probably the key, where with Facebook, it had inherently become school operational organically. We didn't want that. So what we did was we stripped it back and said, what do people need to know from the parents of our school? What do they need to know? And those things were around parents and friends events. So we were trying to build an engagement by drawing them there to see what was coming up at school. and removing that operational element by not discussing it there in any way, shape or form. With great collaboration from Thomson and also our principal, they've been really receptive to the feedback from the parents. And one of the things that we do struggle with still is getting parents to actually provide feedback to the school. So we've made it a faceless feedback. They don't have to have a face. They can jump on our chatterbox and say, I don't have a person to cover me on the school bus for swimming. They don't need to actually have their face appear anywhere. So they don't need to physically call up the school, they don't need to email the school, that kind of thing. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for information to come back to us. And Thomson and Tom have been very, very good about listening to that and kind of tweaking things as it needs to happen. And also Digistorm have been really good at listening to. Sorry. Okay, I don't know. Is that it, do you think?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of this lady, as you can see, bringing it along, but I think it's really important and maybe potentially unconventional to have that idea and that concept of parents being on there. But from our point of view, that's one of the things we feel like we may have done slightly differently, and we've had really positive feedback and results as a result of it. And yes, you get a lot of communication coming through you, is that fair to say? But what's been really nice is having that advocate, that voice that goes, go to Monty's, like go to our Schoolbox, go there and that's where you'll find it, or directing and active in that as well. So we're really appreciative of you, so thank you. I want to say thank you, and thank you for coming along today, because I know you hate it.
Yeah, you do.
So just, oh, yeah, sorry.
No, we don't. But the way we get around that, and this is one of the things in my head, I kind of brainstorm constantly and bombard this lovely gentleman on his one day of e-platform with all these brilliant ideas that I have. I'm concerned about having just a parents and friends page where at the bottom we've got forums for each year level. And I feel like that is kind of overstepping the boundaries of operational and parents and friends, but there's a choice in having to bring people in at a starting point and then change it. So yes, we do for every year level, there is a forum for them to navigate or create a thread or whatever they want to do, plus a social stream attached to it. But we have the main one, which is the one where most people tend to interact on any topic.
Did you have Facebook pages prior to this?
They weren't.
That's where most of our stuff plays out.
They weren't run by the school.
So they were coordinated by a parent representative for each year level.
We have the same.
So they had the oversight, and we then mandated that they need to incorporate a member of staff, a coordinator, what used to be previously before we restructured a year level coordinator, and they would go on and monitor. That became, again, cumbersome, too much to do, and it came to the point where some parents reps weren't actually adding that person, so there wasn't actually a representative from the school there. So that's our journey and what we were battling against. And so then the only other thing, thank you for your question, is that okay? Sorry. The only other thing was then where we moved to next. And as I said to you, August last year, we were 4,000 hits in a month. So as I said before. And so we introduced Digistorm. We also ran masterclasses for parents. We invited parents in. We had an uptake of about 6 parents, but that was okay. That was 6 more people than knew it before. Digistorm were really supportive in designing our app, working in collaboration, and teaching us how to use it. We then disseminated that to those 6 parents, who then disseminated probably to 1 each, so we got 12. And so we built that up into our app, of which we've got multiple functions. I'm conscious of the time, I don't want to go through it, but I'm happy to share this and share the video so you can have a look at how it operates and how it works. But this, it just gives you an indication. We went from 4,000, sorry, it was April, not August. And you can see the trajectory. We're now at 48,500 hits. So that's like our celebrate of success. We've got almost 50,000 hits in 50%. So almost 50% of our parents, they're on there, they're operating so much. They're on there every single day. So now it's working out that they're probably on there on average 150 times. So you like to think that they've come from 10 times. Perfect. That was like symbiosis. You put 10 up at the right time. I think he means 10 minutes. To go from that 10 times a month up to 150 times a month that they're accessing it. So we know that the message is getting out there. And also that's the same with the trajectory. I blew this graph up a little bit because there are only small steps forward, but you've got to celebrate every success. But our trajectory in terms of actually the percentage, as I say, we're targeting 50%. We were down low in the doldrums of low 20% of engagement, so we know we weren't hitting our targets. And now we're up, moving towards that 50%, which is our goal, which is what we've set. And that's thanks to Schoolbox, and that's thanks to Digistorm and the use of the Digistorm app. It's an absolute godsend, the Digistorm app, because everything works in there. Now, we don't worry so much about Facebook. All of those systems work inside of Digistorm. They've actually tailored it for us. It's got CareMonkey in it, it's got school interviews in it, it's got our school website, and it's got the yearly reports come out through it. Everything happens in the app. In the society we live in, everybody's attached to their mobile, they want to use their mobile. So I can't promote them enough. It is an extra expenditure, I understand that, but when you consider the engagement, that's come as a result of us having Digistorm working in partnership with us as well. So we want to thank them as well. Are there any questions about community engagement? I honestly, I didn't sleep last night because I thought, oh, there's no way you'll be able to talk 50 minutes. But clearly, sorry, I apologise.
Just saw that you used to use the school bag app.
Yes.
And we've had some experience with that. So what is it? The Digistorm app far superior, and how?
Far superior.
Okay.
Oh my God. Well, there's some things that we've requested them to do in terms of targeting specific audiences. It was good in the school bag, as I'm sure you know from experience, you can get, say, a year level of parents, and we're looking at how we can do that. They've got a CMS system, which allows you to send notices out. At the moment, that's to parent, to staff, or to pupil. Those are the three groups or role descriptors that come from Schoolbox. So we're talking with them about how we can further extend that. But it has, even has, if you could hit play on that there, you can see the tiles when you go into you can see the tiles there. If you pause it there for me. Sorry, that's real rude, isn't it? You can see how the different functionality, all those extra tools I'm talking about are down the bottom with CareMonkey. They did a little monkey symbol for us school interviews. They all just operate inside of the app. They all work inside of there. This was what we decided. This is what it looks like on an iPad. But you can see notifications and notices in particular. That was communicated through Schoolbag previously can be communicated through those two functions alone. The other thing is, in the settings cog down the bottom corner, the parents have, and any user has the ability to control their notifications. So it's a very simple process to be able to turn things on and off in an app. It's really good. And the absentee module, there's one request we've got for them today. I'm going to catch Chris afterwards. But again, they can notify our office of absentee, so they're not getting 100 phone calls in the morning. Well, I hope 100 kids aren't off in one day. You know what I mean, though? Like, they're not dealing with all that communication. It's coming through an efficient mechanism.
Thanks.
No worries. Yeah, you can, yeah.
Do we have any more questions?
I'm going to leave it on the success slide because that makes me happy. That makes me feel like you're making a slight difference. Thanks so much for listening in and indulging me in the opportunity to speak for 50 minutes. And if you do have any questions or you want to ask anything, I also have contact information at the front. And I'm more than happy to share things with us, our journey, our experience. I actually realise I haven't put my email address up there, but I'm happy to share it if anybody would find that beneficial. Thanks so much, everyone.